now that we're back in the app, in the workspace, we got both our test app and pods. This is where anything you've hooked up with CocoaPods will be, and including Magic Cloud. Our pod files right here, so now you can edit in here if you want to like update the version or something. And yeah, this should be full. You should see a bunch of files in here. If you don't see a bunch of files in the Magic Cloud folder, something went wrong with your installation. Also, in the test app, when you scroll down, you should see pods hooked up here. Not Magic Cloud, you'll see pods, because that's how Magic Cloud's hooked up, through the pods. Alright, so all that looks good. We should be able to now import and start working with it. If everything is connected correctly, we've got a few things to put in here. We'll do our import statement. And, alright, actually, my simulator may be taking up too much juice while we're doing this recording. So I'm going to quit that real quick. And the system should, after that, recognize Magic Cloud for auto completion, and that's how you'll know everything's okay. If it doesn't recognize that import, then it didn't work. All right, so we're all set up. Everything worked out well. We're going to now add conformance for the app delegate to MC notification converter. I believe it should all these MCs in here are the classes we need in the API. All right, MC notification converter. All right, that'll add method we're going to use here in a moment. Here in our did finish launching with options, right, in the application method, we want to put 2 lines of code right here. First, we want to check to make sure that the user's logged into their iCloud account using the MC user record. And then using the application, we're just going to register for remote notifications. That's just built in. If you want more information on how that works, check out the docs for each. Right here you can see we got all this. Basically we're just copying and pasting straight from the documentation. And the next thing we're going to need are one of these 2 methods depending on the version. The third method is what not to do. Yeah, so there's been some confusion about that. Alright, so we're going to need to add a method here that did receive remote notification. So once the remote notification comes in, it's going to get converted by this method, convert to local, which we now have access to because of MC notification converter. That is the only real setup that we have to do to configure the app delegate. That's the main thing, is once we've checked that their account is in, now we need to be able to take this user info and in certain situations convert it to notification center stuff. And all this is documented, so you can check it out over here. But yeah, we'll convert it, and in the background, the mirrors are going to use that information to keep everything up to date and to manage it. So you will need that information, but now we've got our app configured. We can start using mirrors and recordables. So recordables are basically the parts of the apps that the classes or types you have, like structs can be recordable or an enum. But whatever you're adding to the database, the type and its properties will be the fields for the record ID. So we do need CloudKit in this instance. Most of the time you don't need to, but for some of the values in here, we're going to need CloudKit. And we're going to need to add a couple of properties to make our mock element conform. Okay, these properties are used in the background by the mirrors to convert your type for you into a proper record and to handle conversion conflicts and stuff like that. So we're going to add a little extension here, which is going to declare the conformance to MC recordable right here. And we've got this computed property, record fields. That's the key one. This is where you use the getter and the setter to transform the properties into key value storage. That will then be basically what matches the record. Record ID has to be unique, and it has to be savable, so that storable, not just a computed property, because the only warning in the whole system documentation is to keep it unique, because the system's going to be using these to do searches and identify it. So if everything you create has the same record name. You're only creating one of them. But yeah, now we're ready to move on to the view controller. All right. You know what? Before we do the view controller, let's go back and make one last change, because that's kind of not leaving me with a lot of lines left here. So since we only have one value, we can do it a little differently. Normally, if you have multiple values, you're probably going to want to create a dictionary, load it up key by key. But in this situation, since we only have one value in our simple little mock element, we're just going to pass the straight up one element dictionary. And CK record value will actually work in most cases for you. If not, you can read the documentation about record values and which properties relate to it and how to do it. But most of the time, CK record value works out fine. And boom, now we can set up the view controller. Alright, so here in our view controller, we're going to import, again, Magic Cloud, but we won't need any CloudKit this time. Our data model before this array, we're going to just make that a computed property that connects to a mirror. Okay? The mirror, so instead of this did set, we now have this get and set, and the mirror, you just put in the type, assuming it conforms to recordable. Here's the generics, and you set the database, which should be able to autocomplete. It's an enum that's public, which you can read about in the documentation. There you go, public database, and private DB are the two values you're going to use. And now that mirror will sync that type and that database, and you'll have all of them saved inside the mirror and can access it. We moved the dispatch queue over. We need to update still the counter, but since we're not going to do that in the setter, we need to know if in the background the mirror has updated. So the mirror has a change notification that it's going to let us know, and we're going to put that in a new view did load method. And boom, so now the counter will be updated whenever that notification occurs. So that'll occur, okay, let's give it self, sorry. That'll occur every time change notification gets sounded, and change notification will get sounded every time the recordables, the values that's stored in the mirror, get adjusted or changed.